Okay, so in the last 24 hours or so, some massive news has dropped concerning weapons in Warzone, and, well, I had to make a video on this and tell you guys, because this news has the potential to completely change the meta of Warzone. Obviously right now, the DMR, it's just completely broken, it's not working properly, it needs to be fixed, it's dominating the game. So, new metas forming when there's a broken gun that can outperform everything, it's not going to happen. But put the situation with the DMR to one side, the overall damage profiles that many people have been using to build Warzone guns, it's been incorrect. And thanks to the team over at TrueGameData, we're now starting to see some of the real damage profiles of different guns in Warzone, some 9 or 10 months after the launch of that mode. It turns out that multiple Modern Warfare guns have different damage profiles for Warzone compared to the standard multiplayer. That just means they perform differently in Warzone, and in general they are more powerful in Warzone at longer ranges. And so today I'm going to dive into some of this info, give you an overview and a couple of examples, but make sure you go and follow TrueGameData on Twitter and YouTube, links are in the description. They've done all the hard work here, and they'll probably continue to do so as we learn more about these hidden damage profiles for Warzone. And then when it comes to my channel, if you want to see more loadout videos in the future, thanks to all of this new information, so many guns are now being viewed differently for Warzone, then make sure you hit that subscribe button for this channel as well. I'm going to be working on so many new loadout videos now. You won't want to miss them. Now to start with, obviously it's very exciting when you learn that there's more data out there about how guns perform, and perhaps they perform differently than how you expected them to, but it is worth stating at the very beginning that not every single weapon in Warzone has a Warzone-specific damage profile. There are certain weapons like the Odin, the Scar, the M13, various others that don't have Warzone-specific damage profiles, and they still follow the profile of standard multiplayer. And I assume this is just because that profile works well in Warzone and it didn't need to be changed. Now the Kilo is also one of those weapons that doesn't have a Warzone specific damage profile. Recently, a Raven developer tweeted that the Warzone specific damage profile of the Kilo had been nerfed, and that tweet, as it transpires, is what got TrueGameData thinking about this whole situation and led him to finding somewhat hidden Warzone damage profiles for a lot of other guns that we didn't know existed. So to give you guys some examples, I've got some charts here from the TrueGameData website which shows these newly found damage profiles on a graph compared to the previous data that we'd been using on the site. So you're going to be able to see a before and after of certain weapons here. And first of all, we'll start off with something really nice and clear, and previously used to be a meta gun, the Grau. The orange line here, it represents the older damage profile, and the pink line represents the new Warzone-specific damage profile. And as you can see, the older damage profile in the orange, it shows an additional damage drop-off point at 48.5 meters, and that increases the time to kill and it weakens the gun at longer ranges. The new damage profile in the pink, that doesn't have the extra damage drop-off point, and it continues to output the same damage past 48.5 meters, so it doesn't drop down again. And this, with the Warzone specific damage profile, gives you a shorter time to kill. The chart is showing the time to kill when landing chest shots, by the way, which isn't likely to happen with every single shot that you fire. Some of those shots are probably going to land on the stomach of the player, some of them are going to hit like the shoulder and the arm area, and on the legs as well, and you're probably going to land a couple of headshots in there too. So this pink line, it's not going to be your time to kill in every single gunfight. There will be some variance here, because you'll hit different parts of the body that have different damage modifiers, but it's a general rule for you to follow. As we look at some of the other weapons, you can clearly see here that the Warzone specific damage profile for the Grau gives you a shorter time to kill at longer ranges. Next, let's look at the Ram 7. This was actually one of my favorite guns to use in Warzone before the big Cold War integration, and no doubt I'm going to go back to it at some point once the DMR has been nerfed, but this chart again shows a big difference between the old damage profile that we'd been assuming was the one for Warzone for the last 9 months, and now the newly discovered one that actually is active in Warzone. The new damage profile is again missing that second damage drop-off point, this time at 45 meters, and then the gun continues to deal the same damage over the increasing distance beyond that point, and it makes a fairly drastic difference to the time to kill yet again. And that means that the Ram 7 is more powerful at range than we assumed it was before. And then to give you a comparison between a weapon that does have a Warzone specific damage profile and one that doesn't, I'm going to put up the M4A1 against the Kilo here on this chart. So here you've got the Kilo, the M4A1 with the old damage profile, and the M4A1 with the new damage profile. And you have to remember that the Kilo is the weapon that doesn't have a Warzone specific damage profile. It was very recently nerfed just a few days after the Cold War integration into Warzone. That's where that tweet I was talking about earlier on from one of the Raven developers, that's where this comes into play. So this graph shows the Kilo having 2 damage drop-off points for Warzone, one at 30.5 meters and one at 54.5 meters. Then you've got the old M4 profile shown in pink. That also has 2 damage drop-off points. But the new M4 profile is missing that second drop-off, and it continues to output the same damage beyond the first drop at 27 meters. And that gives it a far shorter time to kill than the Kilo at longer ranges. This graph is showing that the Kilo has a shorter time to kill than the M4A1 out to 54.5 meters. The orange line is still below the blue one. But after that point, the M4 has a dramatically shorter time to kill because it doesn't have that second damage drop-off. So it kinda looks like the Kilo isn't really the king of Warzone assault rifles anymore. Or at least, because it's been this way for a few weeks and that's how the gun's been performing, our perception is that the Kilo is now not as good as it was before, even though it's still a really good gun and can outperform lots of other weapons. You have to remember here, this has been active in Warzone for at least the last couple of weeks. So then, in terms of gameplay and weapons that you want to use, what does this actually all mean? Well, right now, with broken weapons like the DMR in the game, it doesn't mean a huge amount, because everyone and their dog is using the DMR, because it outdamages, it outranges, and it outshoots almost anything else that you can pick at the moment. It's easy to use, it has basically no downsides, and so everyone naturally is taking advantage of it before it inevitably gets nerfed at some point. But once the DMR is nerfed, I think you can be pretty confident that a new meta is going to form because of these newly discovered Warzone-specific damage profiles. Thanks to TrueGameData, you're now going to have access to this new subset of data that you didn't have access to before, and you're going to be able to build weapons and loadouts based on far more accurate damage profiles, as shown with the Kilo in the last graph. It doesn't appear to be the absolute king of assault rifles anymore, and it's much clearer that other assault rifles are going to outdamage it at different ranges, so you can make better decisions about what guns to use. And it's not just the assault rifles that this applies to, by the way. The SMGs and the LMGs, they've also been found to have this undiscovered damage profile for Warzone, and that's all active in Warzone right now. It's just that this kind of information won't really be relevant until the DMR is nerfed, because nobody's going to stop using the DMR, which is just the best gun in the game because it's broken. What's not known at this stage, however, is how long this Warzone-specific damage profile has actually been a part of Warzone. We know it's active right now in the game because the data's been discovered, but how far into the past are we going back knowing that this data was active? Was it Season 4? Was it Season 5? Was it Season 6? At the moment, we don't really know. There are a couple of updates that we've had in the past for Warzone, though, that give us some idea of how long these Warzone-specific damage profiles may have been active. You might remember that the SKS, the EBR, and the FFR 556, or whatever it's called, the Burst Fire FAMAS from Modern Warfare, they got infinite range buffs after their final damage drop-off, so that no matter what the range, you'd always be doing that same damage at longer ranges. That change only affected the Warzone version of the gun. And I think the same goes for the Bruin 60-round stick magazine that got a recoil nerf specific only to Warzone and that version of the weapon. So there is a bit of evidence out there to show that these Warzone damage profiles have been around at least for some period of time, But it's only now that TrueGameData has discovered all of this extra information that we know that they were even there in the first place. Hopefully this information is just going to allow us to make better decisions about what weapons to use. At the moment, all the data that you're seeing in this video is without attachments on any of the guns, so no long barrel for more damage range and bullet velocity, etc. It's just the base guns here. But of course, those base guns, they lay the groundwork for the meta that forms within Warzone. And I think because of this new data, people will start looking differently at their weapon choices once the DMR gets nerfed, which hopefully will be in the next week or so, because I don't know about you, I'm absolutely done being too tapped in the head by that ridiculous gun. So that's about it right now, but I'm sure there will be more to come once TrueGameData does some more testing with the attachments alongside these new Warzone damage profiles that have been found. I do hope you found this video useful and that it does start to make you think a little bit more about what guns you could use in Warzone because of these different damage profiles. But just let me say before we go, once again, go and show TrueGameData some love and support. All of that work has been done by them and their community, and I know it takes a lot of time to do that, and without them, right now, we wouldn't be learning so much about how Warzone works and what might be the best guns to use. Links are in the description to their Twitter and their YouTube account. But thanks very much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.